It's also mentioned that this Quran, which created an incredible civilization, addresses simple people and sophisticated people, philosophers and kings, as well as peasants and shepherds. That the Quran, that's one of the attractions and the powers of the Quran, is that it literally speaks to the highest and the lowest. And there's a common ground that it finds, because it's speaking about the most important things that we deal with. And also mentioning that the Quran spread within 100 years from China all the way to Spain, and all of those various people spoke different languages, and yet, despite the fact that the Quran was in Arabic, the Quran was able to speak to all of them because it was speaking to their hearts and minds, not just to their ears, to their tongue. It was speaking about meanings that human beings share. And that's why the Quran is a universal book. One of the things, if you read some other traditions, you'll notice that in their scriptures, there's a great deal of geographical things that really relate to living in the jungle, for instance. Whereas Islam, if you look at the Quran, it's speaking to people who travel on the ocean, despite the fact that the Arabs didn't travel on the ocean. So it speaks to sailors in the middle of the ocean, dealing with massive waves. And it also speaks to people traveling in the desert. It speaks to people traveling in the mountains. It's people who live agriculturalists, pastoralists. It speaks to merchants, and it speaks to people who have trades, make things by hands. So everybody will find themselves in the Quran, and the Quran does speak, and that's to everyone. One of the powerful unifying factors of Islam is the fact that it unites all of us with Arabic. So Christians, for instance, have liturgical services in Korean, in Japanese, in Polish, in Sanskrit, all these various languages, whereas Muslims, their worship is in one language. So we all share that. So whatever mosque you went to, you will hear the same Quran recited. You will not hear a different Quran. And that is a unifying factor for us as one people. One of the things that he mentions here is that people who are native speakers feel a proprietary relationship to the Quran. In other words, it's mine alone and nobody else's. Particularly Arabs. Arabs definitely have that feeling that if you don't understand Arabic, you can't really understand the Quran. I personally don't believe that's true. I think that there are Ajami people who don't know Arabic, but are actually more moved by the Quran than many, many Arabs. And I know some people, especially South Asians, who've seen their mothers or their fathers weep profusely reading the Quran, and they don't even know the meanings of the Quran, but they know it's God's words. And that's what's impacting them, is the fact that they're reading a revelation. And that's why there's a famous story of one of the Ajam who heard the Quran and began to weep, and one of the Arabs said to him, "You're a Ajami, and how can you weep by hearing the Quran?" And he said, "My tongue is Ajami, but my heart is Arabi." In other words, the heart can understand things that the mind doesn't necessarily understand.